Welcome to the Unshackled Life Podcast. Real talk about faith, freedom, and following Jesus. I'm Dalyn Woodard, and I'm glad you're here. Whether you've been walking with Jesus for years or you're just trying to figure out what's real in a noisy world, this space is for honest conversation, raw reflection, and truth that sets us free. Let's get into today's episode. Truth and I don't always agree. From time to time, I wage war in my head, trying to navigate what feels like contradictory reality. During times of deficit, when I'm unable to properly regulate my nervous system, my sense of self tends to get out of whack. For example, I recently had this moment where I felt overwhelmed and a heaviness settle in my chest over the propaganda being broadcast by my emotions. My emotions told me whenever. That's an important word, by the way, and I felt it immediately. Whenever I do something with right motives, it fails, comes to nothing, or at least little. It has no value and accomplishes no good purpose. But of course, everything, that's the sister word to whenever, everything I ever did out of bad motives blew up. Not loudly, but mostly harmless like a firecracker, but like an assassin's car bomb. My right choices are little better than duds in consequences, and my bad choices are dirty bombs that leave never-ending radiation in their fallout. And yes, I'm a little hungry, so I would like some cheese with that wine. Not really. I want to admit I own the bottle without imbibing in the wine. The truth is that WHINE may be as, if not more, dangerous for this ex-drinker than WINE ever was. And I overdosed on self-pity long before I discovered chemicals that changed the way I felt. Look, I know those feelings aren't real. I know it's not true. It's not even hyperbole that proves a lesser but valid truth. My emotions were lying to me. But because of the way our feelings fuel our instincts and reactions, they can feel more real than the truth they contradict. This can be especially true if there are mental health issues involved, such as anxiety or depression, or maybe complex mental issues like bipolar disorder, PTSD, or complex PTSD, or whatever. Perhaps we never truly learned how to deal with feelings well because we spent too much of our developmental time trying to distract or escape from or simply numb away what we felt. I know it's not true that everything I do good is empty, worthless, and accomplishes nothing, while the bad I have done is eternal. That feeling is off about 180 degrees, but that doesn't change the weight that can be felt even physically, or how I simply kept leaking for no good reason. Why didn't the truth immediately set me free from this flood of feeling like a waste of resources? Why didn't the heaviness grow lighter and the little black rain cloud overhead give way to blue skies and a bright yellow sun? Some would say the problem is low self-esteem from early brokenness, and on the surface I won't deny there's some truth in statements like that. But I believe the truth below that surface, expressed in the Che Guevara song, Violent Blue. Quote, "And I don't believe it's the way you were raised, or the cards you were dealt, or a poor self-image. I think you love yourself too much." I may not think much of myself, but at times I think of myself far too much. I'm not the determiner of my value or worth. My significance and value is not determined by what I do, but by the one who made me and what he has done. Art has a value that's given it that is as much about who made it as it is about the art itself. That's true of humanity as well. Our value is set by God, who made us and loves us as we are, not as we should be, but loves us enough not to leave us as we are. Since my good or bad doesn't determine my value, how can the result of my good or bad affect it? Remembering who I am in Christ didn't instantly change the weather in my soul. but it kept me from getting lost in the emotional storm. I didn't feel set free in that moment. The clouds didn't part. My chest didn't get lighter. I didn't dance into the sunset humming worship songs. But also, the truth didn't change. And that's where the real fight lives, right in that space between what I feel and what I believe. That gap is where faith has to take its stand. Faith doesn't mean I feel like the truth is true. Faith means I act like it is, even when I don't feel it. Not faking anything, rather holding on to it like a harness holding me into the roller coaster of life. It may not make me feel better to clutch that harness for dear life, but it does ground me to the truth that I'm held in the ride. I keep choosing what God says, quietly, stubbornly, on repeat, until my emotions catch up or get tired of screaming ineffectually and shut up. Because truth isn't just a doctrine I cling to. Truth is a person. Jesus said, "I am the way and the truth and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me." That's John 14:6. And the word also says, "Whoever believes in him will not be put to shame." Romans 10:11. Not never be confused, not never feel heavy, but never be ashamed they put their trust in Jesus. So when I trust him, even in the fog, I'm standing on something solid. He is the life preserver that holds me up even when I feel like I'm drowning. God is our refuge and strength and very present help in trouble, Psalm 46:1. And maybe that's where real worship begins. Not when I feel strong, not when I feel free, but when I don't. Worship for me isn't just a song I sing when I'm soaring. It's the declaration I make when I'm limping. It's lifting my hands not because I feel victorious, but because I refuse to bow to the lie. Worship is my resistance against the propaganda of my emotions, against the shame of my past, against the darkness that whispers, "Not enough." Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me, Psalm 23:4. I don't worship because I feel like it. I worship because he's worthy. And in that moment, in that choice, the truth that didn't feel like it was setting me free starts to do just that. Thanks for joining me for this episode of the Unshackled Life podcast. If it encouraged, blessed, or challenged you, consider following the podcast and sharing it with someone you feel it might bless or help. Be blessed, and remember, when you fix your thoughts on God and build your thinking on the foundation of His truth, God fixes your thoughts.